1.
Welcome to the Stages of Reading and Development by Alex Babcock. So to start it off, there's 5 different stages of reading development. We have pre-A reader, emergent reader level A to C, your early readers, which are going to fall into level D and I, the transitional reader, which is going to fall in the level J and P, and the fluent reader, who's going to fall in the level of N or higher. So all the way from N all the way till Z level books. So we're going to start off with some signs of a pre-A reader. They're going to know fewer than 40 upper or lowercase letters. They're going to lack concepts of print such as left to right tracking, so the students will not be able to follow from a left to a right manner. They might come to the left. They might go more dyslexic and go from the right to the left. They may not know the difference between a letter and a word. So if they see the 2 letters as in bow or even 2, they might not recognize what that really is. So the skills that you're going to gain from pre-A reader is letter names and sounds, the formations of the letter, how they look, the phonological awareness, including hearing the syllables. So they'll be able to kind of start to pick up on what the syllables sound like, the concepts of print, which is going to be from your left to your right, and the oral language of the letters. So there's really only one assessment you can give these kids. These kids they struggle, so they're going to be stuck with the letter sound assessment. As you see here, we just have an alphabet chart. You're just going to point to them and ask the student to say the letter name or the sound. So in this example, I would point to the letter D, and they would have to say uppercase D. Students often struggle with the upper and the lower cases, so just pointing over here to somewhere like in the middle is not going to work because they need to know if it's the upper or the lower case. That's So to get back on track here. From there, we move on to the emergent reader, level A to C. A big thing that the students struggle at this level is the B and D struggle. Just the concepts of how when they're lowercase, they can look awfully similar, just flipped, and they'll mix that letter up. The blending of sounds together to make words, that is something that they'll catch. They're going to fall into the level A or C. Building foundation with phonological awareness, and they can write their first name without models. So these are the skills that they're going to have right away coming into it. And they'll be able to identify at least 40 upper and lowercase letters. Skills that these students are going to learn is they're going to know all the letters and sounds. So when they would take that letter assessment, they're going to get every single one of those right and the sound. They're going to control left to right across several lines of print, so they're going to be able to follow along from here with their marker, and they're going to keep going on and on. They'll be able to form the letters correctly, like I talked about with the B and the D. They're going to figure out how to get those right. They're going to read and write about 30 sight words, and we're going to talk about sight words in a little bit. And they're going to be able to discuss the story with teacher prompting. An example would be the teacher giving them what happened in the story, giving them hints like how something happened in the story. There's a lot of different assessment for emergent readers. This is your first time to really test the students on their reading, so there's a lot of different assessments. There's letter and sound, which is going to be a strictly individual assessment. The writing records, which is an individual assessment. The dictated sounds, and the sight words. So here we have the sight words for monitor the sight words. This is just an example of the assessment that you could give. What you're going to do is you're going to have 6 students around, and you're just going to point to a word and ask them to say this word. As in the first one we hear have am, and then we'd go on to at, and you just give a check mark if they got it right or leave it blank if they didn't get it correct. And here's just if they would pass the sight level A, they would move on to the sight level B. You can see they're starting to some 3-letter, 4-letter words coming on here. I'm just going to switch back to the other slide first. Very simple words here. They start to pick up a little difficult here. And as the levels go on, they obviously get tougher. Here's a little sight word progress summary sheet that I found that could be useful. You're just going to write in the day and the number of words that they got that day. So something a little interesting. So I went ahead and did a little assessment summary chart for emergent readers. All of my guys are going to be named John, and we went with the level B as the reading level. The know letters and sounds. So you're going to record it. They know 43 letters, and they can make 8 sounds of those letters that are the sounds that we talked about earlier with the pre-A readers. Identifying sight words. They're going to be able to identify those words that we had, and they're going to be able to move on to different levels. They hear sounds. So with this, I put down a B. They put a B if students hear and record initial constant sounds. So this is kind of the usual one that they find in there. Uses is meaning structure. So how the words, if you would make a mistake, does it mean the correct thing? Does the structure fit, or does the visual information work? A lot of the times you run with in here is M&S, the meaning. The meaning doesn't make sense, and then the structure just doesn't quite fit into the sentence. Matches 1-to-1. If he's following along in the print, I said that he does that exceptional but not proficiently enough. Uses the first letter. He always gets the first letter correct. When we go back to the nose letters, those 43 letters, he's doing very well there. Cross-checking to make sure he gets everything right. They're going back. So that's going to move us on to the early readers, levels D and I. They're going to know their letters and sounds. They're going to start to struggle at decoding words, and they're learning to read and write sight words. So they're going to start to incorporate the writing part of the sight words, not the teacher just pointing to them and saying this is what they are. Skills that are going to be gained through the early stage, retelling what they said. Students are going to read a story and start to build their comprehension up. This is where they're going to fall into. Reading and writing about 60 to 80 sight words. That's a pretty big jump from the last one. We were only about 40, we're only at 30 before. We're going to monitor for visual information and monitor for meaning structure to make sure the words all fit correctly in there and look correctly. So assessment in the early stage, this is when you're going to really start to hit your reading conference. Your running record, which is going to be an individual, and you can do spelling assignments as well, small groups, your spelling tests and stuff. Start to get the kids accustomed to the words, but the big thing you want in this one is your reading conference. You want to have that one-on-one time with your student, addressing his needs, whether that would be fluency, accuracy, or comprehension. So you're really going to hammer down on this reading conference. You're going to meet with the student. You're going to run the running record, have him read at least 100 words so you get a good understanding how he reads. And then you're going to make your corrections on how he reads. If he needs to work on his fluency, his accuracy, and that's all going to be based on his reading level. So here's kind of an example of a running record, how you'd have it filled out. I'm going to pull up my laser or my pointer here. These check marks just mean that he's correct. There's nothing that's just there to count correctly. We're going to move on to this one. So the word he was supposed to say is off, and he said of. So we're going to give it a slash, and we're going to go check the structure. Yeah, that one probably works. The structure is going to work into the sentence. The wheels come of the truck, and then we're going to go with visual. So if you were to look through the sentence quickly, the wheels come, and it's just missing the F. You could visually see that could be correct, even though it is an error. But then once he said of, he went and self-corrected himself, and that's what the S and the C are right here. Oop, and then he got that right. So then we're going to move down. We're going to look at one more mistake here. Actually, we're going to look at 2 more. The wheels went through and then he caught himself and goes, the wheels goes through the field. They both work when it comes to the meaning aspect. Went, goes, rolls, all work together. The structure of the sentence, it doesn't really change the structure of the sentence at all, but the visually does not look correct because the correct word is rolls, and he went with went and goes. So they don't look good. Just another one down here. Here's just a mistake. You might have missed the word or just read too fast. We're going to look at one more. Repeat. He repeated himself.